What's up, everyone? This is Jay from Revolution Radio. So, the New York Times released an article that said, "Okay, Boomer marks the end of friendly generation relationship." Now, I thought that was kind of weird. That a meme marks the end of friendly generational relations, considering the boomer, the baby boomers, the people who are 55 and older, have been blaming millennials for everything. Not, you know, a few things, everything. A sluggish economy. Um, they save too much. They don't save enough. They need to worry about their. I literally, when was pulling up pictures for this, I saw two articles. One of them I did. One of these pictures I did print, but or post, but the other one I didn't. And it was that millennials are saving too much for their retirement and they need to stop. There was literally right under that an article that millennials uh, need to start saving because they haven't saved enough for their retirement. But you look, it's just critique, 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 and then some is just outright lies. Um, Millennials are destroying fast food restaurants, the chain restaurants, Applebee's, blah blah blah, because they don't go out to eat enough. Millennials eat too much. I mean, it's ridiculous. I saw one. If millennials really wanted to have their own house and pay for college, they should stop eating avocado toast all the time. Really? If you think avocado toast pays for college, yeah, I got a swamp to sell you. But anyway, one reply, 2 words. Okay, boomer. To all of this. Just those 2 words, that's what kills the generational relationship? Really? Who's being the snowflake here? And might I add, this comes from New York Times, a quote unquote liberal mainstream media rag. And but no, I guess it's just blamed on the millennials again, them kids and their problems. It's kind of funny because it's like when you're watching football or a sports game of any type, and two players kind of get jaw jacking and pushing each other. It's always the guy who pushes last. He's the one who always gets in trouble. It's the same thing. Yeah, it's the teens, it's the millennials, it's their fault. They need to stop hurting the feelings of these poor senior citizens who just can't take it. While those senior citizens are calling you a snowflake. Yeah, all right. But I thought let me look into the boomers a little bit. Let me figure out why there is this divide, this gap. It has to be a little bit more than left versus right. On certain issues, millennials and Gen Z and boomers actually agree a lot on. Many social issues and a lot of financial issues as well. It's kind of interesting. And I think possibly because senior citizens and the people who are 55 and older, they're at that time where they have to start relying on help because they're retiring. And so they want more for things like Social Security and Medicaid, Medicare. And Gen Z is at the age where they're not able yet. A lot of them, not, some of the college kids, we'll put it that way. They're in college, they can't work full time. So they need health care. They need, a little bit of help. And so both are kind of wanting more from the government. But they can't get together and work on the same team, and partially because of mass media. Anyway, to understand the boomers, we have to understand when they were born, their environment. Most of them, it's in the 50s and 60s in which they were born. Um, they grew up in a time that we can't possibly understand. Uh, you know, we grew up with cartoons that white knighted people who broke up racial problems, and oh, you're picking on the fat kid, you're a horrible person. That was the era we grew up. They grew up during segregation. I'm sure many millennials remember their parents complaining that black people moving into their neighborhood would lower their property value. That there's going to be more fights if we allow black people in our neighborhood, in the schools. They remember different water fountains, things like that. They remember, and as much as you would hope that they don't take that with them, I think a part of them does. Not all of them, but some of them, sure. Because I think we all grew up in an environment where we could justify some of our actions. Gen Z will have it too. Um, I can think from millennial or my generation, gay. When I was in high school, we said gay a lot. And it wasn't until later that we realized, Jesus, that's kind of jacked up to say that. Shouldn't say gay. We're not calling something gay, like as a derogatory term, but it was really just us who didn't get it. It's there again, it's the baby boomers calling Native American or indigenous people Indians. Like, no, they're not from India. It's the same thing for us, though, with gay. We were trying to say lame or weak. We were just too stubborn to change our ways. So some of the bigotry that we see from the baby boomers, it's because they grew up during segregation. Now, the other thing is they grew up always having an enemy, someone to fear, somebody who is going to sack their city, so to speak. Somebody who was going to come and, you know, raid their village. It went from the Viet Cong to communism. Communism was huge. And I think they still hold on to communism. They still think communism wants to come to America. I'm fairly certain, according to all my communist friends who live in places like Russia, they've all said, nah, y'all can keep that. You got a mess going on. We have enough to deal with. But the boomers still believe that communism is a big threat. But they've had this enemy, and they've always been told about this enemy. The other big thing that they fear is globalism. And, it's interesting because from my perspective, globalism is just nationalism at a larger scale. That's it. Not to mention, globalism is something we really need to think about. According to people like Elon Musk, space exploration is going to be a lot more easy if we're all working together as one. If we are busy worried about what Russia is doing or China, we can't trust them. How are we going to trust a being from across the universe? I know we're not there yet, but things take time. And trust me, the ability to all trust each other on this planet, that's going to take a lot of time. But that's basically the outlier of what makes boomers boomers. Now, on our side, and I can only attest to my experience as a millennial. I don't know what it's like being a Gen Zer. But as a millennial, we grew up with more of an inclusion. If you were a bully, you're a dick. And at some point, once enough people stood up, you were kicked out of the group. The macho guy, he didn't last very long. As I said, like our cartoons and our Nickelodeon, it was all about being cool to people. We pretty much were raised like the dude in a lot of fashion. But except for one really dangerous additive, and that being the internet. That was the first time we got to actually communicate with people who we weren't closely surrounded by. And we got to talk to people from the Middle East to Norway to Britain. And we learned a lot about people. And we started to learn that even though our parents before us said, oh, there's enemies everywhere, we got to know these people. They're not enemies. They're just like us. Their government is on some shit, and our government's on some shit, and no one's actually talking. And that's the problem. We know that. We know that war is more targeted on the outliers, not on the general. Terrorism. It's a horrible issue. It needs to be dealt with. But there again, it's extreme. It's not the norm. We know that there's not a real giant enemy. So we don't have this fear of the unknown. we don't have this fear of another group. We can see the good in all of them. Globalism, again, the internet. The internet changed my generation in so many ways, and this being one. We don't feel like we should steal from France because we might need it. No, we know we don't. The internet's given us every answer to every question we could have, and we understand we don't have a resource problem, we have a waste problem. We all need to work together because climate change is real and it's going to happen. But it's not, hey, we need to stop eating beef and stop driving our cars and stop using the air conditioning. No, we need to tell the top 100 companies who are putting out emissions that they need to fucking stop because they're contributing to 76% of all global emissions. And if we dealt with that, we wouldn't have to worry about anything else. It's things like that. It puts us at this disadvantage from being able to understand the other side. The boomer still thinks that the big red scare is out there and they're coming to get us. And we're trying to tell them, hey, buddy, move on. There's more important things. I think ultimately we'll probably never find common ground on certain things. That sucks, but the sands of time keep moving. And before I know it, my generation will be having to talk to the Generation Z and explain to them how we feel. And they're going to say, you're so out of touch, you don't know. I hope that millennials, like a lot of Generation X has, and continues this learning about each other, staying connected, and stop feeling like they have to critique the generation below us. Because we are going to get into a situation where we are today. The only group that Donald Trump has majority in is boomers, just people 55 and older. The conservative, the far right conservative as we call them, they are all senior citizens. They're going away. Time is only helping that process. There's going to be people who fill that vacuum, though. We have to be careful what we jump into and what we agree to. Generation X has to be careful not to be duped by Fox News. Not to say, oh, it's Generation Z not paying rent is what's killing the economy. And for you to swallow that pill. I don't know. It's just my thoughts on all of it. I think it's ridiculous, and I also think OK Boomer is pretty funny. I don't think that I am, as an article, like I said, put using the N-word when boomer is used. It's ridiculous. I think it was a meme to get back at him. Say, yeah, all right, I hear you, shut up. Enough, go away. And I think that's what bothers them the most. Because they hate being irrelevant. They're irrelevant in their family lives. Their families don't care anymore. Shut up, Grandpa. Go back to your room. They have to call 3 of their grandkids over to help them turn their laptop every morning so they can get on Fox News and see what Tucker said last night. They can't work around their house as much as they used to. Younger people are replacing them at jobs. They see the sands of time moving. I'm not saying we should be totally cool with them, because many times they're the ones who start this. But just think about it a little bit more before you completely go off the rails at them. And on the other turn, if I'm speaking to any boomers, which I doubt I am, but if I am, I understand it from a millennial's perspective. The economy that we inhabited was the one you created, where predatory loan and your you causing things like the recession put us in debt before we could even start. When you went to school, it cost about $400 for tuition. When we went to school, it's about 40,000, depending on where you went. Some of us who are in a smart didn't get the 40,000. But still, needless to say, my family, myself, $32,000 in debt, college. And it was all based on deals your generation made. You act like college is the making of a liberal group, but it's not. It's a predatory loan that you allow to happen. Maybe not you specifically, but it's the people you voted for. You back deregulating the banks. But that has put us in recession 3 different times, and it's only going to do it again. And it's easy for you guys to recover from a recession because you have a nest egg. We're trying to build one, and we haven't been able to. And then we get chewed out because we're holding down the economy. But what economy did you give us? All you did is you're making money off of us and then judging us because we're not doing what you want us to do with the scraps that we have. You put so many additives and so much sugar in the food that we eat, in the beverages we drink, and then tell us we can't have health care. You've done a lot to hurt us, and without realizing it, we were your enemy. I don't know why we were your enemy, but we became your enemy. Not the communists, not the Nazis, not Viet Cong. No, you treated us like the enemy. And if 2 words is going to hurt your feeling that bad, then you are the ones that deserve the word snowflake. Anyway, guys, that's it for me. Please like, subscribe, all that crazy stuff. I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Good night.